2x2, 7 rows deep.
And rolling up to the start-finish line. It looks like Asher going a little bit off track as the inside.
As they can. Saber making an amazing dive into turn 1, and electroshocks off. Eggful gets the move.
But MNU trying to take a move.
Big contact from 5 different punches.
Big incident with Snowdog, our leader.
As we head into town row, it's a big crash. It's a big crash between the two title contenders.
A ribbon of pavement weaving its way through the verdant Ardennes forest, the lush vista from the top of the hill. Is there a more beautiful racing circuit in the world than Spa-Francorchamps? I think you'd be hard-pressed to find one. Hey folks, I'm Kady Fox alongside MNU, Denak providing our broadcast as always, as we head to this fabled Coliseum of Motorsport, nestled by the town of Stavelot, Belgium, for round 5 of the Simufur Hypercar Championship on Le Mans Ultimate. Certainly a track that many of our drivers know like the back of their hand. MNU, what kind of racing are we expecting here?
Very good racing. It's usually the kind of thing you would expect from Spa-Francorchamps. I'm quite biased, so I wouldn't speak up too much about it. But yeah, good racing ahead.
I'm really looking forward to it. I feel like with the hypercars especially, this is the kind of track that is actually big enough to really accommodate them well. You have the incredibly high-speed sections here that are it's a pretty long circuit as well. But with these cars being so high speed as they are, I think it's a really, really good sort of locale for them, especially in multi-class as we head into our full course yellow practice. Eduardo Alvarez there in the number 6922. Are you allowed to have 4 numbers on your car? Just getting off into the gravel there a little bit at the beginning of that. Looked like they got checked up a little bit by the Toyota of Sierra Thomas in front. But we are getting ready here at Spa-Francorchamps. Our drivers getting in their last little bits of practice around this highly, highly technical circuit. Lots of different places where you can get caught out around here. So I'm imagining it's probably going to be mostly a test of driver's skill around here. But as always, down the very long Kemmel Straight, it can turn into a bit of a drag race, a bit of a drafting game. So the cars with the straight line speed, I imagine, will be the ones that are going to have the upper hand around here.
We are using the front pit lane today because it's how LME does it. And so it means, as opposed to ACC, we are doing a race start on the usual spot, whereas ACC does it between La Source and the Rédillon. It's going to be quite a mess because, well, La Source is one corner to bring hell in.
I honestly, to me, I kind of prefer the start going into the source, if I'm being honest. It kind of gives the field a little bit of a chance to sort themselves out before you get to Eau Rouge, which is definitely not a place where you want to be going side by side. Here's Blade Wolf in the Peugeot 9X8, the 2024 edition. I don't think any drivers are remaining in the 2023 spec of this particular car, but we're seeing a lot of the the sort of typical names that we've been seeing floating up to the top here in our free practice. Robbie Kelly, of course, in that Ferrari 499P that has served them so well in this championship so far, is up there with a 201.198. But Sarah Van Fiepeland in the Porsche 963, not too far behind, about 4/10 back in P2 here. So so far we've been seeing in the standings, it's been pretty much a fight between RK and Luis Alfonso for the top of the standings around here. Alfonso in third at the moment in our practice, but Sarah Van Fiepeland not too far behind as well in that number 4 slot there. It's pretty tight still at the top of the leaderboard, and it did get tighter with the last round at Fuji International Speedway. RK retaking their place at the top of the leaderboard from Luis Alfonso after the round previously at where was that? That was Qatar, wasn't it? That sounds right to me. But we've been seeing sort of the typical drivers establishing themselves around here. Parker Olsen as well, going quite well in that Ferrari as well, up in P5. And then we have Adrian Newt, Tyler Van Beek. They're still fighting it out for those points-paying positions down there. The Sada Freschini still holding on in P7 at the moment, and honestly has a really good chance today to earn some critical points heading into our final round.
Are you expecting many pit stops today? Because we had the last few races, especially around Fuji, we've had a few drivers doing the no stop challenge again, especially Niklas Zahn and Sarah Van Fiepeland, which let them secure the P3 and P4 position in the standings. Do you think there's going to be some more 0 stops today? I don't think so, but...
Okay, first of all, it's really funny that I keep missing the rounds where people actually pull off no stops because I'm not here to see them. I have still not seen a no stop work in this series so far, but that's just because I haven't been here. I would have probably said at a circuit like Fuji, where you have that huge mile-long plus straight, that the fuel consumption would be too high to really make a no-stop work. But honestly, if it worked there, I feel like anything's kind of up for grabs at this point. There are a lot of opportunities around Spa where you can do a lot of fuel saving. The Kemmel Straight being the big one for sure. And you can sort of try to eke out a little bit more as well down the numerous straight line sections of this racetrack. So maybe if you can string enough of those together, enough lifting and coasting. But again, the straight line speed is going to be really, really important here. So I have to imagine that drivers are going to be wanting to keep their foot to the floor as much as possible in those sections, especially down this back straight, as we see Jordan Johnson going through the treacherous Blanchimont corner around here into the bus stop chicane to round out the lap. Definitely a home circuit, I think it probably feels like, for a lot of our drivers around here, although I don't think actually anyone is from Belgium in this championship. But definitely for us sim racers, this is always one that it's incredibly popular for very good reason, and it definitely produces a lot of really good racing. Sometimes produces some really bad racing, but here at Simufur, I think we try to produce good racing as much as we can. So I'm looking forward to getting really, really squiggly. That's not a word. Up Eau Rouge Radion there for Jordan Johnson. Maybe just trying to light up the tires a little bit more, but that section should be easily flat out for the hypercars with the downforce they have.
Yeah, most of the track, I've driven this track only in the Cadillac, surprisingly. I don't drive the hypercars a lot, but Spa in the hypercars is like the only combo I really did. And it feels like Spa is really made for these cars, where basically it's glued to the ground. So the hypercars are really glued to the ground for the whole track. Whereas, on Kota, especially in the first sector, on Kota it doesn't feel as glued to the ground, or Sebring as well. It doesn't feel like it's glued to the ground or Sebring, but it's because it's Sebring and the Track on seeded is really good as well. But here on Spa, it feels like it's second nature for those cars, where it like the mix of fast corners and maybe a little bit slower corners. I don't know. It just mixes very well. I think it's much better in the hypercars than the GT3s for some reason.
It's real peanut butter and jelly around here, I think, and definitely for Sebring, I don't think much of anything is glued to the ground around there. There's definitely a teeth rattler. We'll be there for the final round of this series, but for now we are cruising our way to the checkered flag here in practice. We're going to get qualifying going in just a few moments here for you, where I think we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of our field start to separate out, but probably not too much. I think the gaps have been pretty consistent throughout most of the field around here. So it's been quite good so far. Spa, of course, for the World Endurance Championship at least, has been hosting the 6 hours of Spa off and on since 1953, which the circuit has been around basically since the early 1920s, when it looked very, very different from how it does today. Actually, at one point carved its way through the town of Stavlo, or parts of it, and it was originally much longer than it is now, which you can only imagine because the circuit is quite long as it is. But yeah, it's been hosting 6 hours of Spa. It of course hosts the legendary Spa 24 hours for GT3 machinery nowadays. That's been around since about 1924, and the Belgian Grand Prix, maybe you've heard of it. Formula One, another category that has historically raced fantastically well here, being of course glued to the ground the way that Formula One cars are. But yeah, it's a really fun one. We have a little bit of queuing in the pit lane here. I think this is kind of the first time I've seen this much of a log jam here at the end of the pit lane. It might be sort of a product of the way that you have to sort of cut through the inside of the source to get out in the sort of the Grand Prix configuration of this pit lane, as you were sort of referring to earlier. This exit right there, that white line onto the Kemmel Straight, being the endurance version of this pit lane, where you get a lot more pit boxes, and in theory, a little bit of a smoother transition onto the racing surface. But thankfully, our drivers will not have to be looking out for anyone exiting the pit lane at the top of Radion for this one. They will be basically sticking it through La Source as close as they can, and we'll see how everybody gets going here. It looks like Jordan Johnson is quite close to the back of the driver in front here. I think everybody's trying to sort of find a little bit of room on track here at the moment to get the tires warmed up, being as cold as they are.
Yeah, it looks like there's everyone trying to form a little train from P1 to P11, and then there's a little gap forming behind them. As we see Louis Gordon in that gorgeous Porsche. The Porsche looks very nice.
It's my favorite one.
It's Porsche design. It looks Porsche. I don't know if that's an actual term, but it looks Porsche. That's the way I'm gonna say it. Yeah, it's basically Porsche design. It looks very good. I think it looks better than the Ferrari. It's like a Porsche. It looks like
it's got Porsche energy, exactly. I think it's amazing how they manage with these hypercars to get them to really look like a product of the manufacturers that make them, as we ride on board with Robbie Kelly for our first flying wrap around Spa-Francorchamps here. Breaking into La Source here, turn 1. You want to get as close to that inside wall as possible. Arcade not really getting too close here on this opening lap, and leaving a little bit of room on the exit there as we are heading down the hill up into the legendary complex Eau Rouge. Radion easily flat out in the hypercars, even on these first laps. And then you're on down through the Kemmel Straight, the fastest part of the racetrack here. You're sort of looking on the side. You're looking for where that curbing starts. And you're going to brake right on it into the Lecom complex here. It's sort of these right-left mid-speed corners. keep it on the left side as much as you can to open up the exit for 7. And then we're on down to this little downhill braking zone here. It's absolutely takes an eternity and a half to get around here. You're playing with the throttle all the way through, and then you're into No Name Corner. Weird little braking zone here. Can catch some drivers out, absolutely. You want to make sure that you don't run too wide on the exit of that one. Through Puan here, highest speed section of the track. Very, very high slip angle there for RK and the Ferrari, but manages to keep hold of it. Into the Fania chicane, one of the higher speed chicanes on this racetrack. And then we are heading down into, as we try not to hit too much of the sand there, we are heading into Stavilo 1 and 2, these little right angle ones that you really want to get as good of an exit as possible out of here, because you are flat to the floor with your foot all the way down this straight and through this little undulating section here, which is not technically a corner, but this is certainly a corner here at Blanchimont. It requires total commitment, especially in these ones. And then we are hard on the brakes once again, all the way down to first gear, looping it in for the bus stop chicane. That is a pretty tidy lap around Spa for a first one, at least. We'll see what the time looks like when they come across. It looks like it's going to be a 2:014 there for RK. I am expecting that time to decrease as the session goes on. We have 30 minutes once again to get all of our flying laps in. But that is looking like a really, really strong lap to start out with for RK here. The only one who's managed to get within a second so far is Parker Olsen in the other Ferrari, and in fact it is a Ferrari 1-2-3, and as I say that, Sarah Van Peebles takes that P3 spot away from Jordan Johnson, and we have a little bit more manufacturer variety up at the top, thank goodness.
Looks like everyone is in the 027 bracket, especially from P4 to P7, so it's quite good to see. I've talked to Parker Olsen a little bit about Spa. I know he likes that track a lot. It's like his second home track, basically. He said he wanted to do great for this race, so he has quite a high expectations on how the race is gonna go for him. He's being coached by Robbie Kelly, so you would expect him to be fast. But yeah, Parker also might actually have a very good spot for this race, and I'm expecting that to happen to him because, well, he's my little goat for me as well.
Well, the mentor and the protege leading the timing tables so far in this qualifying session. Parker Olsen currently punching above their weight at the moment. And it's looking like it hasn't been too great of a lap for Jordan Johnson as well. We usually expect that name towards the top of our timing tables, but it's been a bit of a tough series for Jordan so far in that yellow-clad Ferrari. Hasn't had the best of luck in a lot of these rounds around here, but Luis Alfonso as well in the Toyota right behind. We were expecting to see them towards the top of the standings. So we'll see how that continues to develop throughout the qualifying session. We do want to just let you know that we have 7 no-shows for this current round, so they are still showing up on our timing tables, but I believe for pretty much all of the drivers that are listed as being in the pit lane, pretty much from Nicholas Zahn downwards, those drivers will not be taking part in today's proceedings around this very sunny day here at Spa. We occasionally get these, but it can also get very unpredictable with the weather as well. Not today, however.
Yeah, Spa kind of has its own microclimate. It's a little bit like Nürburgring, basically, where when you go there, basically you can't look at the weather reports because it's not confident at all. So you better not look at it and just look at the sky and see what's happening up there, and basically you know what's gonna happen. But yeah, no, very sunny day. I mean, at least for Belgian standards, 24 degrees ambient happening at the moment. Yeah, average.
Absolutely. We're seeing Parker Olsen not too far off of that target time of RK there in front. Has made a that's still not their fastest sector one, but it's a little bit down from where they were, but definitely has been going quite well so far in that Ferrari, using a lot of the racetrack. As we can see, that's kind of the name of the game around here. Those huge gravel traps are here for a reason, and it's to prevent drivers from taking too much of the racetrack. Those have been added in very recently around Stavolo, and as well, I believe at turn 1, La Source, there's the that sort of gravel pit off to the left side that historically has not been in here. That was around when they did the sort of refresh of this track in recent memory. Jordan taking a lot of the curve there through the exit of turn 7, I believe that one is. So I really like this camera as we are heading through Puan at the moment. That just really gives you a sense of the speed around here. The Aston Martin Valkyrie pulling out of the way for Adrian Newt on this flying lap has set a purple sector 1 at the moment, so the track clearly getting faster. Newt, of course, in the Alpine at the moment. Is taking quite a bit of that. You can see the sparks flying off of the wear plank on the bottom of that Alpine, and the Alpine, I think, has historically been not one of the sort of preferred picks in this game in general, but especially around Spa. But Newt handling it quite nicely so far. It looks like this is going to be a pretty good lap. We're going to see what this looks like as they get in, taking a lot of that curb on the first part and the second part as well, sort of riding that sausage and taking as much of the white line as they can. And that is going to be 2:02.7, so not the fastest time that we've seen, but pretty good for Adrian Newt's first run here. Big snap out of the source. We'll be seeing a lot of that in this race.
Yeah, still, it's still quite nice, especially for that Alpine, who has been quite a nice car to ride apparently for the races around, like, for this championship. As you can hear, I'm having a very slow start here, slowly catching up. But yeah, we see Sarah Van Fippelen that I think just got out of the pit, so letting the Valkyrie go by. And now watching the Valkyrie of Inigo Lopez, P13, trying to get that target time, I think might be a little bit too far, considering it's still the poor Valkyrie. It's not, as we said on other races, it's not that much fast of a car, but it's still quite a very good sounding car, very good looking car. It has a presence, but the performance is quite not there yet. I hope it's going to be much better for the following races if there's a patch. I don't know if there's going to be a patch actually on LMU.
Could be a patch. They're trying to patch it up in real life as well. Apparently, the Aston Martin garage seems to be thinking that they're making some real progress on this car. In recent memory, it's seen quite an improvement in recent rounds. At Sao Paulo, it was running pretty close to the top 10 for quite a good chunk of that one, at least the parts that I actually watched. But yeah, I think the factory back home, the Aston Martin factory, has been pretty in high spirits about the way that this car has been developing, despite the sort of the growing teething pains of a first season in the hypercar category. It's of course going to be tough for pretty much any team. That looked like a 2:03.6 there from Inigo, so that was not enough to improve their position, but it perhaps was a slight improvement on their time. We're seeing Jordan Johnson now, so that Ferrari 1-2-3 has been re-established at the top of the field. So, but it's now Jordan Johnson splitting the pair of RK and Parker Olsen in P2, but still less than a tenth, as that was a little bit of a lockup there into turn 1 from Fury April. Pretty common mistake to make. I'm sure we'll be seeing that, especially in lap 1. A little bit of a snap there from RK as well. It doesn't really look like too many of the drivers, at least at the top of the standings, seem to be improving in at least in this sort of phase of qualifying.
It's surprising because I think the grip, to my knowledge, the grip starts normally, so it doesn't go up. The grip stays the same for the whole session. So if someone manages to pull the fastest lap, let's say for the first lap, then they will be stuck with it, I guess. Which isn't really the case of Robbie Kelly, because Robbie Kelly did a 2:01.4 for his first lap, but now has a 2:01.035. Right as I say it, goes even faster now, I think. Oh no, that was 2:02.8, so my bad. But yeah, grip is supposed to be the same during the whole session. If you do a fast lap for the first lap, you might be stuck with it because you might not be available to. It might not be possible for you to go faster, anyways. Sierra Toma, P11 goes for a 2:02.7, which is still P11, I think. P12 as of now, because Fury April is now in P11.
That's what it looks like to us, at least. So it's Sierra Thomas and P11 April rounding out the top 10 at the moment. But basically P9 to P1 separated by less than a second. So the times have been quite close together, aside from just that absolute banger of a lap that RK put in at the beginning of this session. It's been pretty stable since then. But we're already kind of starting to see some of the dynamics here through sort of where the drivers are finding the time. It looks like for RK at least, all of that time is coming from that highly technical sector 2 that's sort of starting about halfway down the Kemmel Straight here, and sort of continues on through sort of towards the Fania chicane, the Stavalos 1 and 2, and then you're heading onto the back straight there for sector 3. So that seems to be where the time is coming from for RK as they get way off the track there, heading into Lake Com. That is going to be a bailed out lap for them, and sometimes you just can't really hit the the brakes the way that you need to get the car slowed down for that one. You do have to be quite precise on the on your left foot in these cars, and sometimes it just catches you out a little bit.
Yeah, the Hypercars are very sensitive on the brakes. You can, depending on how the setup is, you can sometimes trail brake, though LMU is not really a trail brake kind of sim. I'd say on the Hypercars it depends on how much regen you have and how the setup is made. I'm usually quite a big trail braking kind of person, because, well, I'm used to ACC, even though ACC is not really a good example. But yeah, no, braking is very sensitive as long as you don't lock up.
Ooh, was that
like that? What happened?
Is that a disconnect from RK, perhaps? This seems to be back on track, so maybe just a little bit of a network blip there. Thankfully, did not compromise their very strong pole position for this one. Although the times are getting a little bit further down, as Sarah Van Fiepelen there in P2 has now pipped both of the other Ferraris to the front row of the grid. Is only 3/10 behind RK at the moment.
Quite fast for the Porsche, which is also quite fast in the straight corner, in the straights, not in the straight corners. That doesn't exist.
The straight corners.
Yeah, no, I'm having a slow start here again. But yeah, no, the Porsche is expected to be quite fast, especially on the Kemmel Straight, whereas the Ferrari is a little bit balanced everywhere, so it might be faster than the Porsche in the corners, but still maybe a little bit slower in the straights.
That seems to be the dynamic, at least at this point. But it does actually put Sarah Van Fiepelen, I think, in a pretty good position to take take the fight to the Ferraris, and especially RK up in front. If she's able to hold on to this front row position here, it's definitely a really tough start getting through turn 1 in that sort of outside lane when you don't have the benefit of that inside line. But if you can stay alongside on the outside, if you can hang it around there through the sort of apex of turn 1, and force the driver next to you to give you and leave you space on the outside, you get to use all of that sort of runoff at the sort of all the curb on the exit, and that can give you a much better run up the hill through Erosion Radion and down the Kemmel Straight. So lots of different lines that you can try to experiment with. This is a pretty wide track, all things considered, in most places, so you can definitely play around with some of the lines a little bit, and there's just a little bit of cambering on the inside of turn 1 that can help you out if you're getting through there. That's kind of why you want to get to the inside of the corner as much as you can. But I'm sort of prattling on about very very technical things now. This is the sort of thing that you get to know when you race the same circuit for hundreds and hundreds of laps. You kind of figure out the best way to drive it, and that's the case, I think, for a lot of our drivers here today.
I mean, you've seen it all when there's all those ACC servers doing public lobbies on Spa-Francorchamps, or maybe even the Nordschleife. Even on AC, that's kind of the basic thing you need. If there's a sim without Nordschleife, there's something wrong with it. But yeah, no, that's something I like with Spa-Francorchamps, is that there's not one single line you need to take through every corner. If you are fighting with someone, you have a lot of freedom in the line you want to take in some corners, and it doesn't really slow you down much and keeps you on track with battling with people, which is quite nice.
Yeah, it is for sure. It does a lot to bunch the field together and keep things action-packed, especially in multi-class. Drivers heading out now for what should be some of their final runs for this qualifying session. This is one of the few circuits. Didn't mention it up top, but Fez going quite far off the track there, so that's going to be an invalidated lap for them. But this is a warm-up lap anyway. We just saw them pull out of the pit lane in that Hertz Team Jota Cadillac, so they'll be heading around and just trying to get those tires fired up. Speaking of the tires, which I did want to mention at the top of this one, this is one of the few tracks in LMU that you get access to the soft compound of tires, which you don't normally. It's normally just the mediums and the hards that you get at most of the tracks in this game. But for this one, for this qualifying session, you get access to the softs. They have a much higher grip than most of the other compounds in the game, but they do tend to fall off after about 5 or 6 laps around here, especially around a circuit as long as this one. That the tire degradation will be pretty brutal. Especially as you're sort of going through this turn 2 here, or this sector 2, I should say. The wear through Puon on the right side tires is especially quite punishing around here. So you want to make sure that you're taking care of them through there. Luis Alfonso, still in that P8, has not been able to find a time that's sort of competitive for the first couple of rows yet. So this might be an opportunity for RK to make a really big swing in this championship fight heading into the final round.
It's like everyone manages to do a slightly better time in Sector 1, but then struggles in Sector 2 and Sector 3, which might mean that some people are running more, let's say, faster setups on a straight line, but then maybe Robbie Kelly is running a more aero kind of setup, which is also working strategy, especially on Spa. Spa has been known very well, especially in F1, to be able to run 2 kinds of setups. But yeah, Luis Alfonso finishing his lap with a 2:01.4, which puts him P4 behind Parker Olsen. It's getting quite close, but not as close as I wanted it to be. I wanted like a good championship thing going on, but it looks like the Toyota might not be able to quite get up to speed with the Ferrari.
I mean, it continues getting closer and closer. That was definitely a big jump in the standings. If they were starting P8 for this one, they would definitely have their work cut out for them in the sort of hour long that we have for the race time. But P4 will definitely be in a much better position on the second row if they can manage to pass Parker Olsen in the first couple of laps, kind of sitting behind Sarah Van Fiepelen. We'll see if they're able to get to RK, but sort of all the while while they're going to be fighting through those couple of places, which certainly I would expect both of them to be fighting very hard to hold on to those podium positions. That's going to give RK the opportunity to pull out in front and start to build that gap. So we'll see what happens come race time. And we've got about 7.5 minutes left now. The clock just sort of ticking over into that window. Our top 10 at the moment, we have RK, Sarah Van Fieplin, Parker Olsen, Luis Alfonso, Jordan Johnson in 5th. Then we have Fez Fox up there, putting the Cadillac on the 4th row, which is quite the 3rd row actually. That's been running quite well here so far. That the straight line speed in that Cadillac making an impact here. Newton P7, then Eduardo Alvarez in P8, and Fabio Sol. That's an all Toyota row at the moment, and then Ferry April in the last Ferrari here, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, it's quite surprising to see a Cadillac in P6 because, well, brakes are not good in the Cadillac.
You and I know that.
Yeah. Especially we've been training for the 6 hours of Kota because it's an event that's going to happen next week on LMU. Talking about next week, there's not going to be any streams next week because the race is going to happen on the 14th instead of the 7th. So yeah, if you are expecting a stream next week, it's not going to happen. Yeah, I think I've said it all.
Yeah, we'll have a week's time before we head to Sebring for our final round. The Patreon vote was between that and Portimao, which is the one that I would have preferred personally if I was driving this series. But the people have spoken, and we will be heading to the sort of the humid, really kind of the most humid parts of Florida for that race on the former airstrip of Sebring International Raceway. So we'll be in that for sort of the coming week, not this one, but the next one. We're still kind of holding as they were. The times have gotten a lot closer together in these last few moments. We have about 5 minutes left, so everybody out right now. I don't know what caused the car to snap like that on a straight, but geez, that was a little bit harrowing there for RK. It manages to keep it together and is continuing on this qualifying run. Parker Olsen getting exactly as close to that wall as you want to get. That looked like a really, really tidy turn 1 there for Parker, using every inch of the racetrack or very close to it. This is looking like a really strong start to this lap.
Parker Olsen is very close to Sarah Van Fieplin, as you can see. So I wonder if Parker might be able to maybe do another lap and catch P2 again to start alongside Robbie Kelly and put Sarah Van Fieplin in the 2nd row. As we see exactly now, Parker Olsen going into, well, Robbie Kelly now, going up and onto the Camel Straight. Very flat straight because it's a straight. What are you expecting? And then going into heavy braking. That's where I usually would be trail braking there, but it looks like Robbie Kelly, as I saw earlier on the onboards, Robbie Kelly isn't trail braking much, which why? But okay, sure, I guess maybe I'm driving much differently than the others. But yeah, going onto the name, as we see Parker also going into I think that is Campus, and now going to Stavlo, going quite well. Now going into T16 without any braking because this car is able to go without any braking. I think the GT3 is also able to take this corner without any brakes.
It's a bit of a lift if you're on a first lap, but after that it's a bit flat. Jordan Johnson coming back with a really, really good time. That's quite close, and that's a spin from Parker Olsen in a part of the racetrack that I really wasn't expecting it at. That is probably going to, if not end their qualifying run, they're going to only have one more lap to do it. So the pressure is now on for Parker to be able to get that in, and especially because Jordan Johnson was just able to take Sarah Van Fieplin's place place on the front row with a very, very competitive time. That was just under a 2:01.1, it looked like. So RK may have to put in a pretty good lap here. We'll only have maybe 3 more crossing the line right now at the 2:40 mark. I think it'll actually be 2 more. So just a few more laps to get the job done for all of our drivers out right now. Pretty big lockup there for Sarah Van Fiepelen, but still manages to keep the car under control. That Porsche is now able to sort of unleash in a straight line at this point, that twin turbo, putting in the work here around Spa-Francorchamps, over the curbs, through Eau Rouge and Radeon. That's exactly the way that you want to take it. Maybe could have taken a little bit more curb at the top of the hill, but you definitely don't want to upset the car, the aerodynamic platform of this machinery, breaking really late into Les Combes here. So you can see just the commitment that Sarah's putting into it, and it's paying off right now. Is currently about a 1/10.5 down on their fastest time right now. So it's looking like a good lap so far.
The 2 apexes of Brussels, and then going into no name, full flats, and then next corner is supposed to be kind of flat as well, maybe a little bit of lifting depending on the setup. So we have some speed trap stats. So for the end of Camel Straight, right before the braking, the Ferrari is the slowest. The Ferrari is the slowest because, well, as I said, it's one of the more balanced cars, maybe made more for the corners than the straights. Then we got the Toyota with 315 kph. I forgot to say it, the Ferrari is 314 kph. The Alpine follows the Toyota with 315 kph as well. Then goes the Cadillac with 370 kph. It's not surprising. It's an American V8. Straights are their favorites. And then there's a Porsche, 318 kph. It's quite surprising.
Big slide there for Sarah out of the final corner. That is not going to help their lap time. It looks like it is not going to be an improvement for Sarah, and they are not going to go out for another lap. That is going to be it for them. So the best that the Porsche will be able to manage in this session, if they're not able to get pipped by the likes of Parker or Luis Alfonso, is going to be P3s taking the inside of that second row. Maybe where they want to be, considering the sort of stats on that speed trap there. I may fancy her chances coming down the Camel Straight if they're able to sort of unleash that in a straight line. Hard braking here for the Cadillac, trailing off a little bit there just to get a little bit of rotation out of the car. Keeping to the left there, opening up the exit. It's looking pretty good here for Fez Fox up in P6 at the moment, is trying to improve up into the top 5, a little bit late into Bruxelles, but comes back for that second apex. You can sometimes brake a little bit late into that corner and still manage to eke out the time because of just the profile of that corner. Little bit of a dab on the brakes into Pouan. The car is looking quite unstable. That's that low downforce setup coming into play there. When you're going through the high speeds, the car is really going to struggle through there to stay planted to the ground. But Fez able to take it pretty good at this point. It's down about 3/10 from where they were initially. So it's looking like a good lap so far. But again, we're seeing all of these drivers. They're getting really good times through sector 1, and then they get through sector 2 and suddenly the time just falls away from them. It's the that low downforce, I think, that we've been seeing. Lots of different approaches with the setup that we're seeing today, but it looks like RK's more balanced, higher downforce approach is working out for them, which is not what I would have expected.
I mean, it's kind of the thing you would expect from the Ferrari, and I think Parker also is also running the same kind of setup, because it's what the Ferrari does, and it's kind of also what the Toyota does. They're quite good in the corners, not quite good in the straights, but that's how they shine.
So right before we sort of rounded out the end of that qualifying session, we did in fact have a car beat Sarah Van Fiepelen to P3. That'll be the Toyota of Luis Alfonso standing in that particular position. So Sarah Van Fiepelen has a little bit of work now cut out for her towards the beginning of this race, but the intervals really, really close between these cars. We have an all Ferrari front row with RK and Jordan Johnson standing in P1 and P2, the Toyota of Luis Alfonso standing in P3, and that Porsche in P4, Sarah Van Fiepelen. P5 and P6 belonging to Parker Olsen in the other Ferrari, and Fez Fox in that Cadillac. Nice work for them in this qualifying session. Adrian Newt and Eduardo Alvarez sharing the fifth row here at and Fabio Sol and Fury April rounding out the top 10, and down in the further part we have Inigo Lopez in P12, and that's Fury April, or sorry, Alexander Vanderwood in P11 at the moment. Inigo Lopez bringing that Aston Martin up to P12, Sierra Thomas in P13, Blade Wolf in P14, 15th and 16th belong to Mohammed Afif and Luis Gordon. Then we have Jesper Swingley, Zion Stewart in P17, P18, and that will be it for I believe our runners. We have maybe one more, I believe it's JPEG Fox rounding out our actual runners at this point, it looks like. So that is going to be our grid for the next hour's time. We'll see if anybody fancies a move into turn 1 through this one, or even into 2 and 3. We'll see what happens.
Please bring us some chaos.
There's a good chance, honestly, most of the time. I think a lot of these drivers, especially, they're starting to feel the pressure. Twilight of this series, they're trying to gain as many points as they can to try to fight their way up the standings, finish as best as they can. I think we're going to see a lot of hard fighting, especially for those podium positions, and we'll see what Jordan Johnson is going to be able to do against RK in the beginning of this one. We've seen in the past when these two have lined up on the front of the grid together, we have seen fireworks in the previous rounds of this one, and it's occasionally been Jordan Johnson being able to get in front towards the beginning of the race, but then RK, through some combination of misfortune and pure pace, able to get out in front again. So we'll see if that dynamic continues. We have, of course, seen Jordan Johnson piloting that Lamborghini SC63 before. Unfortunately, that was the only Lamborghini on the grid, and it has since been sunset, taken out back behind the shed, as it was in real life, and we have no more drivers driving the Lamborghini, which is quite unfortunate in my opinion. But we'll see more Ferraris, I suppose.
I mean, it makes sense. There wasn't really any budget for the Lamborghini. No one was really driving it. I think there was only one in IMSA. It was quite. I was expecting it, to be fair, and now it kind of follows in LMU because it's a simulation. So you have to simulate the real life, and meaning you have to get the Lamborghini away, I guess.
The Lamborghini factory, of course, spinning up their Temerario GT3 program, the sort of next evolution of their GT3 platform. That is where they want to be competing in that particular class. So we'll be seeing them on the grid in some places in 2026. They're starting out slow. It's we're not going to be seeing them in the World Endurance Championship, I believe, for some time. But it sounds like they've already had some customers that are gearing up to take control of that machinery as we are heading on to this machinery for the next hour. We will be getting hopefully some great scenes around here at Spa-Francorchamps. We are heading through the bus stop chicane right now. RK controlling the pace of the field. As we are getting ready for our race start, we'll be getting the green flag once everybody is on the main straight. We don't want to be going green when people are still going through the bus stop. That is a sure recipe for chaos. Everybody's lined up. We're getting ready to go. Little bit of a start at the back, and we are green flag into turn 1. It looks like RK didn't get the best of starts there, and Jordan Johnson is going to be able to swing it around the outside very, very slow for the both of them. It looked like it wasn't enough grip for RK there, and it's Jordan Johnson in front. Sarah Van Fiedelen able to get the jump on Luis Alfonso as well, up into P3 now at the moment, and is following in the wheel tracks of those yellow Ferraris, and is a full commitment all the way up Eau Rouge and Radion. That is not maybe full speed yet with the tires, but she tried it for certain. It looks like RK is trying to come back at Jordan Johnson here for the Piva. It's very, very late breaking into Lecom, and it looks like Jordan is gonna just be able to stick to the inside and get done. But all of this fighting in front is going to be giving Sarah Van Fleet a chance to get back in front. Luis Alfonso tumbling down the order as well, down into P7, and that's going to promote Fezfox up to P4. A fantastic start from them. And Eduardo Alvarez in the Toyota up to P5. Newt in the Alpine up to P6. Whew.
You can. It's on. You can breathe. So it was quite. It was quite a clean start. I've seen it all. Quite a clean start. Right before I said this, there was a yellow flag, but nothing too big. Inigo Lopez in the fabulous V12 of the Aston Martin Valkyrie. I think followed by Sierra Thomas. Right as we see a Toyota going away, that is Luis Alfonso. Toyota getting out of track. Very common place to get out of track. Maybe some loose brakes or maybe some locking up. I don't know what happened. As we see Inigo Lopez on the outside of this corner going into the kitty litter. Oh, poor V12, that hurts.
More cars in the gravel, and Luis Alfonso's woes continuing all the way down to P10 from 3rd on the grid. That is not the way that they would have wanted this race to start, but we've seen Luis Alfonso fight back from the back of the grid before in this series. We may see another recovery drive again in this one, but that's going to give an opportunity to the rest of the drivers in front to be able to get promoted into some really strong positions here. Sarah Van Fleetland still hanging strong in P3 at the moment. Fezfox right behind, though, in P4, and is closing down that gap as we speak. The front 4 or 5 still is really, really close together in this one. So now it becomes a drafting game. We're going to try to stay in the wheel tracks of each other as much as possible. Make sure that we get as much of that slipstream down the Kemmel Straight as possible. Is this going to be close enough for RK? I don't think so. I don't think the slipstream is going to be quite enough to get them in there, but a few good laps from RK and they can get back within striking distance.
Yeah, I'm expecting Robbie Kelly to catch quite fast. They both have been... Oh, Fury April fighting right now with Fabio Sol, going into La Combe and then going into right into Brussels with, I think, Fabio Sol getting on the inside, trying to get that inside of that apex, but can't quite get it. Fury April gets the front, but then someone's behind, and that is Luis Alfonso following Fabio Sol from very close, maybe looking to get that position. It's itching, we can see it. Luis Alfonso getting a quite the same exit as Fabio Sol, but looking on the inside, can't quite get it. Tries to scare Fabio Sol, doesn't quite make it, and then it goes onto Stavlo. That doesn't... Oh, maybe a little bit of catching up, but looks like they are on the same pace going into Sector 3 right now, though Luis Alfonso is going to get the slipstream as we go back to Robbie Kelly being second. Maybe... Are we going to see a dive on the bus stop? I don't think so. Right when I say it, Robbie Kelly gets very close to Jordan Johnson, but still can't quite get it. There's going to be a lot of fight between those twos.
That's about as late on the brakes as you can get into bus stop without completely going into the wall. So RK getting as close as they can, and it's still not close enough at the moment. We saw Jordan Johnson as well taking a lot of the exit curb at Blanchimont. We're probably going to be seeing that a lot during this race, and our drivers are going to have to be watching out for track limits. I think Jordan Johnson taking that one strategically at the moment, given how close RK is, and Luis Gordon still trying to fight back for this position here, up into the top what would this be? This would be up into P15 at the moment. So we have fights all the way up and down the field at the moment. And Fury April as well. That looked like a really strong move until they come followed by quite an adamant defense into Bruxelles. You really like that outside part of Bruxelles there to try to defend from other cars because you can just carry so much more speed. It's a really nice place to just plant your car and be able to pull it around. But the rest of the field's still quite close together. It looks like RK and Jordan have pulled away a little bit from Sarah Van Fiepelen. Sarah Van Fiepelen losing touch with the top two is now 2 seconds back, so will no longer get the benefit of that slipstream, which might give an opportunity to Fezfox and back, who still has a little bit of catching up to do, it looks like, and is seems to be more focused on defending from Eduardo Alvarez in P5. It's been a really strong start from them as well, from where they were on the grid. So we got movement all the way up and down. This is a little bit of another puff of gravel back there in the back. Definitely gravel all over the circuit at the moment.
Yeah, it's very common on this track to maybe get on the edge a little bit too much and then going into the kitty litter, as I like to call it, a little bit. But it doesn't slow you down much, but still gets you the edge you need to get up to speed for the next corners. As we see right now, Luis Alfonso getting quite close to Fury April.
Very close.
Yeah, maybe looking for a little bit, I wouldn't call it a dive, maybe a little bit of a dive still inside La Source, which doesn't... Ooh, told you, but doesn't quite make it because Fury April is taking very wide and then goes in quite harshly. So the two of them, maybe Luis Alfonso may be looking for a overtake on the Camel Straight.
That's usually where you want to be setting up things, just right into the sort of technical parts. You can try to lose the other driver in there. We're going to be going side by side into turn 5 here at the moment, and that's a really, really strong point alongside Fury April is going to park that corner, and they're still going side by side through here, leaving each other room, a little bit of wheel bumping, but that is going to be the move done for Luis Alfonso, right where they wanted it to happen. Fury April putting up a really fantastic defense, but that wasn't going to be quite enough here to get that done. But yeah, just fantastic there from the Toyota, and Luis Alfonso driving in anger, trying to get all the way back up, and has a little bit of clear air now to push to get back up, and their next target is going to be Newt up there in P6 in the Alpine.
Looks like it's getting now quite all right across the track. There's a few tiny trains here and there. Sarah Van Fiepelen is now completely alone on track. Eduardo Alvarez is looking to maybe overtake Fezfox. Adrian Newt is alone as well, as I see at the moment. But yeah, basically everyone is in their little train going up and down. Eduardo Alvarez still close to Fezfox. As we see, did we see an Alpine? Was that the Alpine of Newt? Yes, that was the Alpine of Newt. Fury April going into the bus stop, followed by Fabio Sol still, who's trying to get the position. Maybe would be able to get it on the straight, since the Toyota has maybe a little bit more straight line speed depending on the setup. We still see Luis Alfonso right in front of that Ferrari of Fury April. Maybe we're going to still see an overtake again on Camel Straight. I think that's going to be a thing that's going to happen quite a bit much on this track. That is a common overtake practice, to go on the Camel Straight, have a better run. Right as we see this, Fabio Sol going right on the left alongside Fury April, going on the outside of that first turn, but on the inside of that second turn, makes it, doesn't quite park it on the apex. I'm quite surprised. Usually you take the apex a little bit more, but doesn't quite take it the way I want them to. But yeah, that is an overtake well done, very clean.
Very, very clean. Defending race so far from Fury April has, I think, maybe qualified a little bit above sort of their weight class in this race, and definitely has had a couple of drivers who dropped back the likes of Luis Alfonso and Fabio Sol, who just got through. So I think Fear April giving up the fight there a little bit just to try to manage their own race. As best as they can, but providing us a lot of entertainment in the commentary box, of course. They'll be having to defend perhaps from Sierra Thomas in that other bluey Toyota in a little bit. We'll see if in a couple laps striking distance, the Peugeot is sticking together here in P11 and P12. That's Mohammed Afif down there in P12 and Blade Wolf right in front in P11, the two Peugeots here, and we have Fezfox further down, also in the Peugeot. But these cars looking about midfield, which is pretty much where I would have expected them to be. And it does look like Newt was able to get around Eduardo Alvarez at some point up into P5, so that ended up being really, really good for their race, especially since Luis Alfonso is going to be on the back of whoever was in P6 in the next couple of laps time, given the pace that we've seen from them so far in this one. Robbie Kelly clattering over the curbs and Jordan Johnson responding in kind. This is the closest that they've been for a little while in this race. I think it's still a little bit too far back, and Arcade just trying to manage their race as best as they can. Maybe trying to eke this one out to the pit stop phase and then see where things end up from there. But it's looking like they're able to at least stick onto the back of them very, very close. We may have to see an overtake in an unconventional spot. We may have to see Arcade getting a little bit creative through Sector 2 if they want to get this this overtake done. And there is so much battling happening up and down the field. This is what we've been seeing throughout this championship, I think, but Spa really giving us a show today.
And it's not even the end, because there's still the battle we should be expecting at the end of the race with the pit stop. So right as Robbie Kelly goes on the side of Jordan Johnson, maybe looking for an overtake on this lap, but I'm not quite sure if he's going to be able to make it. Going a little bit into the gravel, but yeah, they are fighting each other, but they also have to think about the fuel strategy, how the virtual energy is going to go for the rest of the race. Do they need to lift a little bit on the corners, or do they just need to go like full flat and fight each other to get that first position? Will they be able to even keep it if they pit? We had the confirmation last week that it wasn't really the case, because Niklas Zahn won last week's race by just lifting and coasting very hard. So yeah, we still don't know how that's going to happen at the end of the race, but yeah, very exciting race ahead.
It's probably going to pop off in the last few ones. I don't really know, and I mean, I think it's also a factor of just the fact that we've seen so much fighting. I don't think very many drivers are lifting and coasting very strongly right now. It doesn't, looking at the virtual energy on my screen at the very least, it doesn't look very much like anybody is particularly trying the no stop right now. Everybody's sort of hovering between the 71 and 74% ranges. That's really, really close from Robbie Kelly, about the same as it has been for the last couple of laps now, but just continuing to pile on the pressure. But yes, the fuel situation looking about the same for everybody, so I think we're just going to see our typical raft of pit stops as we get towards the last 10 to 15 minutes of this race. And as we're speaking as well, Newt getting very, very close to the back of Fezfox now, who has not been able to turn on the pace and keep up with the top three at this point. And so Sarah Van Fiepelen falling away from the top two, and Fezfox falling away in turn from the top three. And that's been giving an opportunity to Newt to get into a really, really strong position in the rest of this race. A little bit of a missed apex there for both of them, trying to get through Puan, just trying to get the best line that they can. We'll continue to see how this develops throughout the course of the race, but Newt continuing to get closer and closer to the back of that gold Cadillac.
So yeah, there's going to be a little thing happening on stream at the moment. We will be on the waiting scene, but we will still keep commentating because there's some issues going on at the moment. Apologies for that. Fezfox is still P4, going on with a fight with Adrian Newt and Eduardo Alvarez. They are both within 1 second of each other. Update on the leaders. Jordan Johnson is still going on right now with Robbie Kelly. Robbie Kelly is still P2 with 0.7 seconds of a gap, so 7/10, and basically everyone now is in their little train. There's not really much movement, mostly just fighting around, but not many overtakes going on at the moment.
No, that gap has opened up a little bit between RK and Jordan now. I think Jordan's starting to turn on the pace a little bit. That last lap was quite fast. It's been a 2:02.4 from Jordan Johnson and a 2:02.6 from RK. So RK just falling a little bit behind at this point in the race, but not too much. Definitely still within that crucial slipstream range, I would guess, maybe at the tail end of it, so only getting a little bit of the benefit, but just enough to be able to keep that gap where it is and potentially be able to claw back a little bit of time here. But these two are going to be, I think, trading times for probably most of this race would be my guess. Yeah. The only other sort of close-ish fight that we have on track at the moment basically just looks like Newt on Fez Fox. It looks like that's going to be sort of our next battle that we're going to be watching. But things, thankfully, as we're sort of experiencing these technical difficulties, things calming down a little bit, we did manage to get through the sort of first few laps of this one, and we do have a little less than 45 minutes left to go still.
The virtual energy right now is a little bit high. So we're seeing an average of 4.5% per lap, which is, I think, around 1% more than all the other tracks. So Spice a little bit of a longer track. It does make sense that the virtual energy is still much higher, but it's still quite surprising to see such high numbers. I'm expecting pit stops. Honestly, I'm expecting pit stops.
Yeah, me too. It looks like RK is getting very, very close now to the back of Jordan Johnson. Got a little bit of a better exit out of turn one. They're heading up Eau Rouge and Radion right now, and RK is only 0.3 back. That's as close as they've been throughout basically most of this race, and it may be an opportunity for them to shake for a move, as I'm going to have to become a radio commentator here and try to paint the scene for you. Jordan Johnson cutting to the inside to try to defend. Only a little bit of a defensive shape, but that's the first time that Jordan has had to throw a defensive shape for most of this race. We get our video picture back. It's going to be both of them heading on down to Bruxelles now. At the moment, it is still RK behind Jordan Johnson, but sticking very, very close to the back through most of this sector. It's looking really, really strong now for RK. This is going to be as strong of a push as they've had in the rest of this race, and we'll see if it turns into an opportunity for them or if they can just continue to pile on the pressure on Jordan.
We now have a new racer that's spawned in the leaderboard. It's now Alexander van der Woorde, P7, who's pushing everyone up a place now. Apologies for what happened. LMU strikes again, as we see now the Alpine of Alexander van der Woorde. That was really weird because the car wasn't appearing at all, even on stream. Oh, we saw a car behind. I think that's the car of Luis Alfonso going out of track at the same point. That is around the campus before Stavlo. And yeah, I'm quite confused of what's happening. Everything's happening at the same time.
Yeah, Luis Alfonso dropping into the sand once again, and also just getting a little bit squirrely on the brakes into the sort of first Stavlo there. So Luis Alfonso still, having their work cut out for them, has been able to really use that pace to push up. As Sierra Thomas getting very, very close now to the back of Furia April. This is the fight for P10, so this would be a really, really strong position for either of them, almost getting into the back of that Scarlet Ferrari, but just managing to stay out of it on down into turn one. This is not going to be an opportunity, but is maybe going to be setting up for turn 5, and it looks like that gap at the top has opened up once again. So RK putting in the lap times, and then Jordan able to answer each time. So it's and as I say that, actually the timing getting a little bit weird out there in front, but that gap is looking like it's going to be about 7 to 8 tenths at this point. But Jordan continuing to command this race from P1, especially just from that overtake at the beginning of the race, and from there on it's been pretty much a perfect drive so far.
Yeah, it usually goes this way with Jordan Johnson. Maybe a little bit of a slower qualifying, but managed to be maybe a little bit more consistent during the race, but also getting that first position inside the source, which it's kind of a cheat code, you know. You just have to dive and it goes well. Well, you have to hope it goes well. Anyway, Sierra Thomas P11 behind Siri April going right now through Pool. The car that has the most aero managed to go through it faster than going through Campus turn 14 and now going through Stavlo turn 15. Everyone's following themselves pretty well. There's P1 and P2, then a little gap as we see right now. Eduardo Alvarez fighting right now with Adrian Newt, maybe looking for a little bit of a dive through the bus stop. Are we looking... Oh, Eduardo Alvarez can't quite make it because Adrian Newt is blocking the inside. I wouldn't call it blocking, but still a little bit of a defending. Eduardo Alvarez looks on the outside of the next corner, can't quite get it, as Alexander van der Water is behind the two of them, maybe hoping for crash, who knows. 3 positions as he get quite close through T1. Everyone's within striking distance of one another. Maybe I think Alexander van der Water is a little bit closer to Eduardo Alvarez and could be looking for a dive up at the comb.
I think just that little bit of a mistake, that little bit of a lockup is going to force Eduardo Alvarez to take a defensive shape. They were fighting really, really strongly. They're going to go side by side through turn 5. They're going to continue to go side by side, and I think Alexander van der Water is just going to eke out this position. It's been really, really clean racing throughout this. I'm really glad that everybody is giving each other room through like one of the sort of narrowest sections of the racetrack around here, but that is going to be, you know, Eduardo Alvarez was looking so close, almost pushing Newt through Blanchimont there towards the bus stop chicane, but just a little bit of a lockup into turn 1 opened the door for Alexander van der Wood along with all of that fighting, and it means that instead of going 1 place forward, they're going to be going 1 place back, and maybe we'll be looking to work together a little bit to try to push back up to that P5 position, and from there pushing up to P4 and Fez Fox, who was sort of quietly having a nice consistent race in that Cadillac. And all of this fighting has meant that they haven't really been challenged for that position so far in this race, despite perhaps not having the pace of the cars behind.
Everyone's getting into their pace. Everyone's pretty consistent in what I'm seeing. Fez Fox is maybe the slowest of the top 5, top 6. So yeah, if Alexander van der Water can catch Adrian Newt, maybe they can go on for a charge against Fez Fox. As we see Sierra Thomas going into the bus stop with Fury April still in front. Can't quite make it. It looks like it's quite a difficult fight going on for now Sierra Thomas, as the 2 main cars of the championship, and I mean like not drivers, but 2 main cars, as the Ferrari and the Toyotas are quite popular in the series. They are going through now Eau Rouge and going up the Radion. I don't think there's going to be an overtake to be expected through the Camel Straight. So can't quite get it up the corner, especially out the exit of T1. Can't quite go faster through the exit of T1 to make up on the Camel Straight, going through Le Combe. Still, it looks quite difficult to follow the hypercars in the slipstream.
There's a little bit of dirty air with these that definitely comes into play, especially when you're going up the really, really high speed, the Eau Rouge and Radion. We saw a little bit of a wiggle there from just cars trying to follow as closely as they can through Blanchimont, through Pouan. It's definitely, you know, a struggle sometimes to stick to the back of that car. That sort of aerodynamic turbulence affecting the downforce available to you on these cars, and that's a phenomenon that happens with most, if not all, high downforce cars in motorsport in general. But definitely these two, some of the more aerodynamically complicated machinery on the grid. So definitely they're going to be feeling the effects of that a little bit. Clear air for Blade Wolf, definitely in P13 has kind of quietly been coming up to the back of Parker Olsen, who, by the way, just had must have had a heck of a time at the beginning of this race, because they're all the way down in P12, not where we would have expected them to be given the qualifying performance. So it has not been a day to remember so far for Parker Olsen. Currently the second to last, or the last of the running Ferraris in this one. Mohammed giving it a little bit of a look, I think, and that was a really big mistake from Blade Wolf through the bus stop, and that's going to give a little bit of a opportunity to Mohammed, but I think they just managed to park up the car on the second apex enough to make sure that the Peugeots continued to run as they were.
Yeah, Mohammed being a little bit slower through the bus stop because he had to brake a little bit to avoid Blade Wolf maybe sliding a little bit on the outside of bus stop. It happens quite a lot, especially on the hypercars. If you don't have your TC set up correctly, it might happen quite a few times. Maybe a few spins as well. Who knows? It might happen. I've seen it quite a few times in GT3s. I think it also happens maybe in hypercars, but in public lobby, so it don't quite count. Mohammed Afif Suhaimi getting quite close now to Blade Wolf, going into the inside, but can't quite make it first. And then going into No Name, maybe looking for a better exit through there. Maybe going for Pouron. I'm not quite sure he can do it. No, he can't. And yeah, the Peugeot is quite... The Peugeot needs that aero, so the aero ash doesn't help Mohammed quite a lot.
Absolutely not. Definitely feeling the effects of that. So, yeah, I think it was just that opening incident with Luis Alfonso with Parker Olsen that just had them both, tumbling down the order a little bit in the opening stages of this one. Luis Alfonso managing to recover up to P9 at the moment. I don't think that's too far above where... or it's too far below, excuse me, where they started. But for Parker Olsen has not been able to make the same progress, it looks like. But definitely these two running quite close together. And that might be another, that's contact between the two Peugeots. Just a little bit too much braking for Mohammed Afif. It was not able to keep the car out of the back of that Blade Wolf's Peugeot out in front. Was not too heavy of a contact, but that is definitely going to go. And again, contact between the two of them, that's going to spin Mohammed Afif all the way around this time. Just a little bit of a park up for Blade Wolf on the exit of turn 1 there was sort of cutting across the nose of Mohammed that we saw from that rear camera, and I think that was just enough to cause them to spin. But the fight out in front, P1 and P2 heating up again a little bit. They're getting a little bit closer together. That gap has been around 6 to 8 tenths for the last few laps in this one. We're almost at our halfway point, but RK never letting Jordan get farther than a second out in front, so has been basically doing the job that they wanted to do in this race so far. But it's tough. It's tough to try to get around this circuit for sure.
They actually went side by side going into Les Combes, which is... I saw it on the side. There was no way they could have followed each other. So we saw earlier through the fight with I think that was Blade Wolf and Mohammed. I actually did a little bit of a commentator's curse as we saw the spin. That wasn't quite in the bus stop. The spin was on T1, but I did mention the spin. That did happen. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you should apologize.
Yeah, no, that wasn't meant to for that. So, anyways, Robbie Kelly close to Jordan Johnson, maybe getting the slipstream through Camel straight in a bit, going between now the Source and Eau Rouge, and on the Rédion we're going up there. Looks like they have the same speed on the top of there, so I don't think they would be able to fight it at the end of the Camel Straight. And actually, it looks like Robbie Kelly is getting quite a bit of a gap now between him and Jordan Johnson, but maybe would be able to catch it. They look like they have different setups. Because I think Jordan Johnson struggles a little bit in the sector 2, whereas Robbie Kelly manages to keep behind in the sector 2, even catch a little bit. As we see now, Eduardo Alvarez in P6 at the moment. Fabio Sol behind, quite close actually, 0.6. And Alexander Van der Woude, the hidden DLC car that we didn't unlock at the first half of the race. Alexander Van der Woude is now P5, and there's less than a second gap between him and Eduardo Alvarez.
Yeah, making really good progress in that Alpine, it looks like, but might have to start taking a little bit of a defensive shape, and that promotion up to P5, unfortunately coming at the cost of Fez Fox, who crashed at the top of Eau Rouge Radion and has retired from the race. So it was looking like a really strong P4 for them, but that's not the way that they would have wanted that to end. But that does mean that the two Alpines of Newt and Alexander Van der Voort are getting up into P4 and P5 respectively. It does also mean that there is even more of a gap now between P3 and P4, so Sarah Van Fiepelen continuing to just have a nice Sunday drive out there. And this would still be, I mean, if I'm sure she would probably appreciate just being able to cruise to the end of this one, considering that this would be a really, really strong podium position for her and her chances at getting into the sort of upper echelons of this championship by our final round. So this would be a really strong performance from her. This is a real quick look at our virtual energy stats at the moment. It looks like RK is actually running a little bit fuel hungrier than Jordan Johnson at the moment. I'm not sure if that's, and that looks like it was a swap in position between the two of them, and RK is back out in front. It looks like the both of them are going pretty slow through this section of the racetrack here. They're going through Stavolo 1 and 2. That must have been an overtake into the chicane, which would have been definitely unconventional, but a really, really strong move from RK, and it looks like that's going to get them back out in front. They're heading back down through, they're heading through Puan right now. It looks like I got my track locations messed up, so that must have been a move into Lake Calm, then the place where we've seen a lot of different moves happen. So RK getting back out in front.
It looks like RK is getting quite a gap between him and Jordan Johnson. So maybe Jordan Johnson is struggling a little bit now, just maybe out of, I don't know. That's actually quite surprising, because Jordan Johnson has been running like a clock for the whole first half of the race. It looks like now getting overtaken is like makes him struggle quite a bit. I don't know how to put it. But yeah, P1, P2, then there's a gap at the no woman's land, I call it, for Sarah Van Fiepelen. In P3, then Newt in P4. There's almost a 7 seconds gap between each of them. No first land, I hear from Denak. But yeah, it looks like apart from P1, P2, and that middle train, I'd say between P4 and P8, it looks like it's quite okay for everyone else.
Yeah, RK stretching their legs now. It looks like they were losing quite a bit of time for most of the course of this race, stuck behind Jordan Johnson, and was faster through or sector 1, which we were expecting with those sort of the lower downforce setup on Jordan's car to be the sort of advantage Jordan for that section. But not only has RK managed to pull out the gap through there, but is also probably going to end up pulling out a gap throughout the rest of this sector 2 now, as both of them continue on into Puan at the moment. And this fantastic camera angle, just the way that it just swings through that entire corner, you really get a sense of the roller coaster that Puan tends to be. RK now commanding this race from the lead, and I think you're probably onto something there in that Jordan Johnson, like basically any other racer on the planet, prefers to be in the sort of leading position and appreciates the clear air that provides. But RK now is it's their turn to run in front, and looks like they're making the most of it so far.
It looks like losing P1 makes it lose the flow. Because now it's slowing down a little bit, but just a tiny bit, as we see Fabio Sol going into, was it Stavolo? I'm not quite sure. I think that was Stavolo. Yeah, they're going
out of Stavolo through Blanchimont.
Yeah. So Luis Alfonso fighting right now with Fabio Sol. So Luis Alfonso in P8. Oh, that was a massive. Wow, okay, I wasn't expecting this. Wow.
Like 20 meters late from absolute downtown, but still managed to get the car stopped. That was an incredible move from Luis Alfonso, getting up into P7, and now is chasing down the third Toyota in this little train. That's Eduardo Alvarez up in front that they're going to be chasing down, only about 1.4 seconds behind. We'll see if Fabio Sol has anything left in the tank to try to answer that, but honestly, if you're Fabio Sol in that, you kind of just have to tip your cap.
Parker also gained a position right now, but we still see a fight going on at the moment with Luis Alfonso and Fabio Sol. Fabio Sol kind of looks like they lift a little bit. I'm not sure. Maybe they didn't want to fight it through Le Comp. I'm not so sure, but yeah, I hope Fabio Sol still keeps their foot on the throttle. I want them to fight this because it's maybe a P7, maybe a P6 with Eduardo Alvarez. There might be a three-way fight going on at the moment, like slowly catching a little bit. And we see the Alpine of Alexander van der Woude right at the front, who's basically opening that little train of cars fighting. And yeah, from what I see, Fabio Sol is the one closing that little train. So yeah, maybe a little bit of a fight could happen between P8 and P5. Who knows? Spa is Spa. Everything happens.
For sure, as we've just seen. Jeez, I thought they were going straight into the wall when I saw how late that was. Incredible work there. It was, playing around with the brake bias, the brake migration. You can really eke out a lot of, and especially in the Toyota Hypercars, you can eke out really, really short braking distances when you need to. But we're very, very close now with a lot of fights here for this sort of P5 to P8 train here. And again, Eduardo Alvarez getting really, really close to the back of Alexander van der Woude here, who is sort of running a defensive race now in that Alpine A424. We're getting fairly close to the point where I think some of these drivers might be thinking about pitting the virtual energy getting into the yellow range, so sort of around and under 20 to 25%. Looks like Inigo Lopez is rounding out the second part of the bus stop, trying to take a different line to get back onto the back of the Peugeot of Blade Wolf, which sort of throughout the after that little bit of a spin from Mohamed Afif, it's been basically the Valkyrie on the back of the Peugeot for most of the rest of this fight. So fights happening up and down the field still as we are heading into pit stop territory. That gap out in front has now opened up to 1.5 seconds, which is much longer than anything that Jordan was able to pull on RK. So RK in a commanding position right now. That's the Valkyrie going side by side and braking very, very late into turn 5 there of Lecom, and I don't think Blade Wolf fighting that one too much. That is going to be the Aston Martin promoted up into P12 and about a 6-second gap away from P11, so has a little bit more work to do and not a lot of time to do it.
It looks like Inigo Lopez can make the brakes work quite well in that car, especially with that heavy V12. It needs it needs good brakes to well make the car stop. Alexander van der Woude in P5 right now, fighting with Eduardo Alvarez, who's 5/10 behind, and Luis Alfonso, who has taken quite a gap, who's now 1 second behind. So we are looking at Eduardo Alvarez at the moment. It's like a Toyota train. There's basically a small Toyota train just behind an Alpine. It's Was there a French versus Japan thing happening at one point in history? I'm not sure. I'm not gonna comment on this because it might derail quite a bit. But yeah, Eduardo Alvarez in P6 at the moment. Still quite far behind Alexander van der Woerden. Quite, I'd say, close enough to maybe let Alexander stress a bit, but not enough to attempt an overtake right now as they go on the Camel Straight. So yeah, no overtake in sight right now.
Yeah, Alexander van der Woerden actually doing a really, really good job just keeping the pace up in that Alpine. It's been a struggle for a lot of our Alpine drivers to get in there. We have our first pit, actually. That's Mohamed Afif in the Peugeot, probably looking to repair maybe a little bit of that damage that that they might have sustained for that. But that is our first pitter, and is in fact also switching onto the soft compound tires, which is a very interesting decision, and I wonder if anybody else in the race is going to be doing that. We've been seeing full sets of medium-clad hypercars for basically the entirety of this race. I think we saw one car that fitted soft compounds to the rear wheels, interestingly enough. That was Zion Stewart in P17, who is not yet in this race. And that's unfortunately going to be a stop and go from Mohamed Afif for most likely speeding in the pit lane. So that is going to set them back quite a bit. But yeah, we'll see if anybody else decides to switch onto the soft tires. You'll lose 12 seconds in the pit lane by switching tires, because in Le Mans Ultimate, as it is in the World Endurance Championship in real life, fuel and tires are not taken simultaneously, so you don't get to switch them for free. It does take time. So the question is going to be, if you switch onto those tires, are you going to think, do you think that between now and the end of the race, that you're going to be able to make up at least 12 seconds of time, and in fact, go faster than that, in order to make it the faster strategy? I have no idea. We'll see what happens.
I don't think it's really worth it because the mediums in those cars are already quite good. So I don't think it's worth the change. I don't think it's worth the 12 seconds, especially if you are, well, like Sarah Van Vimpelen going on at the moment, especially if you are in P3, that case, you could be losing a position basically if you change tires. So it's not quite the optimal strategy. I think the optimal strategy in that case would be to take the harder compound and then roll on with it until the end of race. That's what has been happening on all the other races, but mainly because they didn't have softs. But I think that's the strategy to keep on right now. We are officially under 10% of virtual energy going on at the moment. So yeah, the pits, I think the pits might be happening at around the 15 to 10 minutes mark.
Could be an overcut from Jordan Johnson as well, because it looks like RK is still burning more fuel than Jordan is throughout the course of this race. So we'll see what happens when we get into the pit lane. I think Jordan might be able to eke out maybe one more pit stop or one more lap, and that's exactly what's going to happen as RK pulls into the pits on this lap. And Jordan Johnson is going to keep going. We're going to see if they were very, very, very close to each other when they entered the pit lane there. So it's going to be really interesting to see whether they're going to end up as close together when RK gets the tires switched on coming out of the pits. And RK looks like is not switching tires, so pretty much as we expected. I think most of the front runners are also going to hang on to those medium tires. The mediums on the hypercars designed to last about 2 full fuel stints, and we're doing about 1.5 over the course of, or 1.25, I should say, over the course of an hour. So they should be able to hold on. Shouldn't need to switch on to the softs, but we'll see what happens as RK coming out not into traffic, which is going to be a sigh of relief for them. So half the job done. Is just going to be looking to bang out as fast of a lap as possible. Jordan Johnson doing exactly the same out in front.
So from what I'm seeing, P1 through P4 will be pitting this lap. It has been confirmed by the game. Fabio Sol as well, Eduardo Alvarez as well, Fury April as well. So I think almost everyone will be pitting this lap. They got their crew ready right now. Because in LMU, you need to get the crew ready for them to do an optimal pit stop time, because otherwise they're not ready. And you have to add that animation of them getting out of the garage because they're not ready with the tires. So it takes quite a bit longer to them to prepare for the pit stop. So yeah, we'll see right now as Jordan Johnson went through Blanchimont. They're going through the pit stop, and now they're supposed to go inside the pit lane. And there we go. MNU big brain here, I'm telling you.
We'll see what happens. Where's RK on track right now? Just coming through the first of the Stavelos right now. So I'm not sure exactly how much time you lose in the pit lane around here. Jordan is stationary, is taking the fuel right now. It's going to be probably a good 20-ish seconds stationary. And RK heading through Blanchimont right now. And of course, when Jordan exits, they're going to be exiting the pit lane into turn 1 La Source. So that may be able to give them a little bit of advantage. RK coming onto the main straight right now, onto the start-finish straight. And it looks like Jordan Johnson is probably going to end up out in front. It's going to be, yep, they're going to be able to take that position away, but there's Eduardo Alvarez right there who still has not pitted. So right behind the Toyota splitting the two right now, and Jordan still trying to get the tires switched on right now, and Eduardo hounding them through Rouge and Radion at the moment. It's going to be tough for them to get around, and I'm not sure if Jordan is going to let them for fear of losing too much time to RK behind, but so far it looks like it was exactly the pit cycle that Jordan wanted.
Especially Eduardo Alvarez is like, I don't really see why you would be fighting Jordan Johnson in that case, because, well, you are supposed to pit this lap. So Eduardo didn't pit last lap. He's supposed to pit this lap, and it's very short. It's very close to being out of virtual energy, because they are at 2% flat at the moment. So 2% for them is 0.5 laps. Maybe if they don't lift and coast, that could be a penalty for them. Do you know what the penalty would be in that case?
For running out of virtual energy?
Yeah.
It's a 30-second stop and go for every lap that you stay out.
Wow.
So it's a big penalty. So you get 30 seconds the first lap. If you keep going after that, it's another 30 seconds, and it keeps going until you pit. So
basically,
don't do that.
Has to get in. Yeah, he has to get in now, because it's not really gonna work. I'm looking at them right now. 0.4%, 0.1 laps basically. They are struggling to get into the pit.
There they go.
They now need to be very careful, because a little bit too much and you get that sweet penalty. I mean, that might be actually the opposite of penalty. Luis Alfonso is also inside the pit lane, actually inside their boxes, and now they're going out with, let me check, 36% energy. So it's around what everyone's doing, 30 to 45%. Everything's going on quite well at the moment. Everyone's a little bit spread out because of what's happening in the pit lane, so it has quieted down a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely has, and the gap has opened up for sure between Jordan and RK out in front, and RK now has their work cut out for them for the last 10 minutes and change of this race, which around this long circuit is probably only about 5 or 6 more laps. So not a lot of time and not a lot of opportunities to get the rest of this done. They first are going to have to catch up those 2 seconds, which from the pace that we've seen, might be doable, but it's one thing to catch up and another thing to overtake, as we have seen throughout the entirety of this race. They're going to have to take a lot longer than the about 35 minutes that it took them to overtake Jordan from sort of the midpoint of this race all the way at the beginning at turn 1. So we'll see what happens. And everybody else, I think, pretty much coming out of the pits exactly where they were. It looks like that Toyota train has remained intact. Looks like Parker Olsen has made up a couple of positions, which is good. Up into P9 now from P12, I think the last time we checked in on them. And Sierra Thomas getting in front of Fury April for P10, so rounding out our top 10 positions there. 15 cars still running in this race. And we'll see how things work out. The gap has come down out in front, down to about 1.8, although that wasn't a very good, that wasn't a very tidy, I should say, bus stop for RK there. So the gap stretching out a little bit more.
I'm looking at the leaderboard going on at the moment. There's still someone in the pit lane. That's JPEG Fox. I think JPEG just DNF'd because I see them in their box. They don't move anymore, so I think they just went out their box. Why did they go inside their box? I'm quite confused. Anyways, Robbie Kelly, Jordan Johnson, P1 and P2 fighting for the potential win, though as you said, I don't think Robbie Kelly would be able to catch Jordan Johnson back, because, well, now the gap is getting bigger and bigger because Jordan Johnson had that better strategy going on. Maybe a little bit less fueling, maybe a little bit less traffic as well. But looks like it pays off for Jordan Johnson, especially as we see the gaps between P2 and P3. There's a 10-second gap between... No, actually, it's between P1 and P3. So there's a 10 seconds gap between P1 and P3. That's quite a lot.
Quite a lot, for sure. And that's, I mean, I feel like that's similar-ish to the gap that we saw before the pit lane. Maybe a little bit more as these two continuing their fight have eked out a little bit more. Was that a little bit of a puff of gravel there from Jordan Johnson? I don't think that affected their times too much, but yep, everybody just staying on there, and that's Jordan out wide again, out onto there. So just using all those track limits and a little bit more. That's not going to help their times too much, but it's going to probably at this point take a pretty significant mistake to get RK back into the fight for P1 at this point, or else they're really going to have to turn on the pace in these last few minutes.
Yeah, I'm still investigating what happened with JPEG. I think JPEG Fox might have disconnected because they are now 2 laps down. And the fact that they were in their box makes me think they were disconnected for just a bit, which is weird, but yeah. Anyways, what's going on at the moment? The closest cars might be Luis Alfonso and Alexander van der Woude. But looks like everyone else... Oh, there's also Parker Olsen that I see right under there. But we are looking at Alexander van der Woude in the stock livery of the Alpine, which is, of course, French. So it's going to be blue, white, and red. But depending on how you place those colors, it might also be the Dutch flag, which is where Alexander van der Woude comes from. So see what I did there? You know,
I gotcha.
Anyway. Anyways, so yeah, 1.2 second gap between Luis Alfonso and Alexander van der Woude. They have been fighting for quite a bit during the whole race, and I don't think they're gonna exchange the position. I don't think 6 minutes is enough time for them, at least for Luis Alfonso to catch Alexander van der Woude. Right as I say that, it goes under 1 second. Thank you. So yeah, no, actually, never mind. Might be a little bit of a fight. Why every time I'm saying something, the game is like trying to turn it around? I hate.
Well, you should just keep saying that the end of this race is going to be really boring, and then maybe it won't be. So.
Oh yes, there will not be any pit stop at all. Still.
No, absolutely not. No one's going to make a mistake or anything. It's going to be fine. The gap out in front actually is closing up quite a bit as we're saying that. It's down to 1.6, 1.8 now. So it looks like RK has found a little bit of pace here in the twilight minutes of this race. We have generously 3 laps to go. It probably won't end up being 4, but I think 3 is probably the max that we're going to end up going. Luis Alfonso getting side by side with Alexander Van de Voorde there, and Alexander not fighting that too hard, but is trying to maybe come back, taking a little bit of a different line through the bus stop there, trying to stick close onto the back of that 2025 liveried Toyota, and is pretty close through La Source here, and is looking for a good exit, and will be trying to get that position back. I don't know if that's close enough. The gap is about 3/10 between them. I think from what we've seen before in this race, you need about that 3.5 tenths gap to have even a chance, and that's the Toyota of Luis Alfonso going quite hard over the curb at Eau Rouge, which that looked a little bit like a strategic track cut to me, as they're going to be able to stretch out this gap and not have to worry about getting overtaken from behind. Definitely at this point in the race, if you have track cuts to use, you might as well use them.
I mean, you have, I think, 3 points of track cuts available. So yeah, if they cut a little bit, that shouldn't be a big of an issue. Depending on the severity of the cut, you might get more penalty points or cut points. I don't know how they put them because it's labeled as cuts, but it's points. Anyways.
Yeah, it's points, and depending on the severity of the cut and how much time you get more or less points. I think the lowest that you can get is 0.25 points out of 3, and the highest is about 1.5 if you just like completely run over and just like skip a corner. Basically, that's you'll get slapped pretty hard for that one. Track cut system in LMU, I really like it. It's probably the best in sim racing that I've seen. But this gap, definitely, between the two of these drivers, it might not be catching enough to get a fight towards the end of this one, especially since they also need to get the overtake done. But look how much track that Jordan is using right now to try to keep that gap exactly where it is. It is full flat to the floor qualifying laps for both of these drivers right now, just trying to hang out and get to the finish.
Yeah, I'm looking at everyone else going on at the moment. There's still a fight going on with Alexander Van de Voorde and Luis Alfonso, but Fabio Sol also invited themselves into the Luis Alfonso and Alexander Van de Voorde fight. They're going onto the Camel Straight now. Oh yeah, we see them on the stream. That's perfect. So not really an overtake going on at the corn, though. Oh yeah, as you see Fabio Sol catching Alexander Van de Voorde under braking. It's quite surprising how much Alexander Van de Voorde loses under braking, because they first lost a position in the burst stop to Luis Alfonso, but now it looks like they're struggling as well against Fabio Sol. So I don't know if it's the Alpine being bad on the brakes or if it's the Toyota just being better.
That's my guess, being the LMDH machinery rather than the LMH. You sort of lose that sort of extra front braking force that the hybrid provides you in the Toyota, for example. So the braking distances do tend to be a little bit shorter. And the more I watch of Jordan Johnson on my personal screen here, I feel like we might have to investigate them for plank wear after the race, because they're running so far over all of these curves and running into the gravel, and just trying to do everything that they can to keep this gap where it is, because RK is showing really strong pace behind, as is Fabio Sol as well on Alexander Van de Voorde at the moment. Alexander was at one point in this race in P5 and is still not too far away from that, is still about a second away, but we're coming on to what should be, by all accounts, the final lap. Right now, the time is going to run out over the course of this lap. We may get one more, but I don't think we will. Unfortunately, LMU does not give you white flags, so you don't know for sure exactly when the race is going to end, but it should be either this lap or the next one, and I think that gap is just a little bit too far, even though RK keeps whittling it down, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
I think, I think he lost the flow, and it's now a little bit too late for Robbie Kelly to catch Jordan Johnson, especially since I can confirm it. This is the last lap by a few seconds. So yeah, maybe we're gonna see an overtake between Fabio Sol and Alexander van der Water as Fabio Sol goes outside of the track, going into the Kitty litter, but it doesn't look like it slows him down too much. Still has a fight going on right now with Alexander van der Water, as we see Jordan Johnson going into, I think that is Stavlo 2, so going into the Courbe Paul Frère, and now entering slowly the Blanchimont zone. And yeah, that is a confirmed win by 2 seconds. That was just the pit stop was just on point. Looks like he didn't know what to do after all.
Yeah, the pit strategy working out really, really well for Jordan Johnson today. He is going to cross the line, flashing the lights all the way in. That is a very strong performance from Jordan in this race, starting from second on the grid. Was able to take it at the beginning. RK was able to muscle it back into the lead, and then the pit stop, the crucial phase of the race, Jordan was able to get back in front. It's a really, really strong podium there. You can tell how excited Sarah Van Veekland is about that podium, despite not really having seen another car for most of this one. It's going to be a little bit of a lockup for Alexander Van der Voort. Going to be fighting all the way to the end. It's going to be a track race to the line. Fabio Sol, I think, just getting out in front by a car length, maybe half a car length. And that is going to be a P6 for Fabio Sol, P5 for Luis Alfonso. And unfortunately, a P7 there. Alexander Van der Voort just losing out on the line. Eduardo Alvarez, Parker Olsen, and Sierra Thomas rounding out our top 10 today. Good race.
It really looks like the Alpines is struggling under the brakes again. Like, second overtake. Like, you get overtaken the second time through the bus stop. It would... I would be hurt. I would be hurt. As we see, I think that is Blade Wolf going through. Yeah, that was Blade Wolf going through the start finish line, and now Lewis Gordon in P14. And this is not the last person. So Mohamed Afif Souraimi going into P15, and then it should be JPEG Fox closing the race in P16, who already went through the line. He's 2 laps down. I don't know what happened. I still don't know what happened. But yeah, this closes this race. Was an amazing race. Good track, but I'm not biased at all. No worries. But yeah.
Yeah, really, really good one. The DNFs today, Zion Stewart, Fez Fox were the 2 that ended up DNFing. I think it was for JPEG Fox, the other Fox. I believe it was a brief network interruption that caused them to reset to the pit lane, and then was able to get back out on track and at least finish under their own power, albeit a couple of laps behind. So for the championship, even though it wasn't a win for RK today, that will still be an increase in their championship lead. They will end up with 95 points in this championship, and Luis Alfonso, finishing P5, will stay P2 with 83 points. So heading into the final round, it's going to be 12 points between them. It would have to be a huge swing, probably close to, if not a DNF for RK in the next race for Luis Alfonso to still pull this one out. And considering what we've been seeing in terms of RK's performance throughout this championship, honestly, I don't think that that's very likely. We'll get you a couple of replays here at the end of this race, but a lot of really, really good moves that we were able to catch on camera throughout. So yeah, it was really good racing, and definitely a higher standard than sometimes you see at Spa. But it was really fun. I had a good time.
It's still going on with the rubbing that you can do on LMU. It's still one of the better sims for close racing and such. But we are gonna go now on the replays, and I'm gonna give it back to Kady for the replays.
Sure, let's get our first one. So this was the beginning of the race. I believe that this was, we're following on board with one of the Ferraris here. I believe this was, oh, it's a very deep dive from the Ferrari, and that was just plowing into the, listen, I can't say that I haven't done that before, mostly against AI, but I've done that before. It's tough, especially on a lap 1.
Yeah.
And that was just that was I believe it was Parcho taking out the Toyota of Luis Alfonso there. So that was both of them tumbling down the order. So unfortunately, the damage being done there. I think Parker probably suffered enough in the race from that incident, but that will probably end up being a penalty coming their way.
Yeah, that's a shame because it's really not intentional. So,
yeah, you could tell. Like it's you miss your breaking point sometimes.
If that happened to me, I would be so mad at myself for that to happen because, well, no one's perfect. It does happen to people with a lot of experience into like Sims and stuff like that, but still, oh, that hurts. I feel bad watching this.
Yeah, we're so comfy up here in our broadcast booth. We're not in the cockpit of a hypercar. We can't we can just sit up here and tell them how they're supposed to be driving, and you're not supposed to make any mistakes. It's easy.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. There's still another replay to come around, I think.
I think so.
In a bit, so stay here still, and we will get on in a bit. How was the race for you? How? I think it's chaotic because it's still.
I mean, yeah, I had a lot of fun, quite honestly. It was just, I mean, I think it was just a really. It's one of those ones that it really was, I think, representative of the type of just really nice racing that Spa can offer, and like especially in terms of just the creativity that we see on display with drivers, making overtakes across, all different parts of the racetrack, going around the outside, down the inside, into the bus stop, just like hitting crazy braking distances. I'm still thinking about that move on from was that Luis Alfonso, I think, on the oh my god, just like it was so late and still managed to get the car stopped. I have no idea how they did it. But we'll have 2 more replays for you today. The first one is going to be the sort of mistake from Fez that led to their retirement. And then we'll also get you, we missed on camera the overtake for the lead from RK sort of in the sort of halfway point of the race. So we'll try to get that one as well. We'll see if the LMU replay system wants to agree with us today. It usually doesn't, so we'll do our best to get that to you. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. I think in terms of championship implications, really good performance from Sarah today. So she'll be probably moving up. Probably is going to be fighting for that bronze medal at the end. So here's the Fez incident here. So yeah, coming up Eau Rouge Radion, this is probably incredibly easy to do. It's one of those ones where you're just, oh yeah, and just a little bit of, wow.
Yeah.
The Cadillac taking flight there for a second. We're not going to the airstrip until next round, but we get a little bit of a moment there. I didn't know that Cadillac made airplanes, but apparently they do. Just a little bit too much slip angle into the sort of second part of Eau Rouge there, and we had a nice little what's that, like a 1080 spin there at the end. not enough of the car under you, it happens.
Yeah, that's a new kind of Beyblade if I saw one. That's sadly that's the kind of mistake that sometimes happen, especially up the Radion. The car jumps a lot, so if there's not enough aero under the car, it basically goes up flying. It loses all the aero that's needed to glue it to the ground, and basically just ends up spinning. That also happens in the GT3s, even though it's a little bit less because the cars are a little bit slower and have a different kind of aero. The hypercars are much more sensitive, so that's why it can happen much faster.
That's the kind of crash that would have killed someone, honestly, back in the day before this Overvision Radeon has been reprofiled many times over the years, most recently after a couple of really tragic incidents at this circuit that unfortunately have claimed people's lives, but thankfully safety has gotten a lot better. Wow, that was very creative there, going through the other car, and yeah, you know, it's sometimes you just kind of go straight on and through a wall, and that opens the door for your opponent to sort of take you there. We'll see if we can get you a little bit of a better look at that, but I'm not sure if we're going to be able to, unfortunately. But it looked like these types of moves that we've seen all race sort of around the outside of Lake Como. A lot of drivers really favoring that line through the course of this race, just because the outside of turn 5 so quickly turns into the inside for turn 6, and if you can keep the speed up, it can turn into a really good attacking and defending opportunity.
I honestly think RK should get a better internet sponsor. From what we saw, but yeah, no, that sometimes happens when someone loses their connection. Anyways.
Yep. So, like we said, we are skipping next week. We're not going to be having it in this one, but you can tune into my Twitch if I can put in a little self promotion here, because me and this guy LMU are going to be, or MNU, excuse me. I'm thinking of MNU in LMU is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing the 6 hours of Coda together, so that's going to be a lot of fun. If we can live for all 6 hours, I'm not confident that we will, but we'll try our best. But after that, on the weekend of this is going to be Sunday, September 14th, is going to be our final round for the Hypercar Championship. As we've said a couple of times, we are going to America once again for Sebring International. One of those circuits, again, that is just requires a lot of commitment. It's a lot flatter than this one, for sure, but I think it does occasionally produce some interesting racing as well. And we'll see how drivers will manage, Sunset Corner and Turn 1, and just all those places where people can get tripped up around the airstrip.
It's one of those tracks where I would have seen the Lamborghini. I'm quite sad now that Johnson changed his car. I would have seen the Lamborghini around this track. Actually, I think it's quite good around Sebring. Anyways.
Yep, so that's us for this broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really fun up here in the broadcast booth. I'm Kady Fox. This is MNU alongside me, and Denak, as always, providing our broadcast. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. So have a great night until then.
Bye-bye.